colleagues and friends. Welcome to the third episode of Seedling Stitch Knitting Podcast. My name is Athena. I'm a new knitter since about 7 months ago, so I decided to call this podcast Seedling Stitch because I'm still a growing knitter and like to share my knitting adventure with you. And also, I would like if you can grow some stitches on your needles while you watch my episode. I'm coming to you from Vancouver, Canada, where I'm doing my PhD in engineering here, and also it's just in this beautiful spring season, a lot of cherry blossom trees just along any walk of any street. And today it's kind of a cherry blossom themed episode because I'm going to share some experiences of my first design, which is a cherry blossom cowl. Anyway, let's get started. So what I'm wearing today, again, I'm wearing the same garment as my episode 2. This is cardigan number 8 by my favorite things knitwear. There has been a few new things on this garment, so I'd like to wear it and talk about that. Last week it was just fresh out of the needles, so I haven't got the time to block it. And this time I block it, and it turns out so differently. The drape, you can see the drape comes out, and last time the around the sleeve it's not very flat and smooth, and now the sleeve also behaves better now. This was made with host yarn. I used 4 strand of their fingering weight yarn. You perhaps have known that I'm a big fan of the host yarns, because they have many different color choices, and they have fingering weights for a range of different materials. Like they have alpaca fingering weight yarn, and they have the wool fingering weight yarn, and silk blend or cotton blend yarn. And you can choose similar colorways and then combine them to achieve thicker, higher weight yarn together, so that you will get this sort of it won't be a solid color. It will be like a few shades of the same color putting together and to create a better color effect. So that's one thing I love about the host yarn. And it is a highly unprocessed yarn, so it will it kind of will fluff up after you wash it, wash and block it. So last time I haven't washed that, and the fabric looks kind of stiff, and after I washed it, you can see there's more fluff, like a halo to this yarn, and I like the end result quite a lot. So that's one thing. Another thing is I sewed in the pockets. I think last time I haven't had time to sew the pockets. I used the mattress stitch. I learned to do the mattress stitch a while ago, like when I was making my knitted animals. I showed these in my first episode. For these animals, you knit all these pieces in the flat, and then you stitch them to the round with the matrix stitch, as well as put some fillings through. So I had to do a lot of matrix stitch for making these, so I'm not afraid of doing matrix stitch. There's a catch, like a thing that's kind of prone to error when you are making matrix stitch is that, especially for this type of thing, when I'm putting this pocket piece into the whole piece of garment, there's one thing we have to pay attention to, is that you have to match the stitch correctly. So let me explain. All the knit stitch, they are like this V shape, right? You can see these V-shaped, and when you are sewing this pocket piece of V shape. And on this side it has to be this shape of stitch, and on that side it has to be that shape of stitch, so that when you put them together it will like blend in. So at the end result here, you cannot see a difference between my pocket and my whole garment. And I can show you a place where I messed up. So on my button band, when I was picking up stitches, I think I did something wrong. I'll show in these two lines. Can I show this here? Yeah. Along these two lines I'm matching the same side of the V, so both this stitch and this stitch is pointing to that direction. So it's not a V, it's like two parallel sticks. So if you're doing match stitch and if you didn't pay attention to match the V shape, then you will end up with something like this. I guess, which is okay. I'm okay with there being some mistakes on my garments, because well, these are hand knitted garments, and it should allow some space of error, and it kind of make it unique, right? So yeah, so I'm okay with that. Another thing I did was adding the buttons to the garment. I bought these beautiful mother of pearl shell buttons from my local yarn shop, West Coast Wool. I never learned that making a cardigan, the hardest part was to choose the right button. And actually Margot from the yarn shop told me that you should have bought the button first and then make the cardigan, and then maybe later you will just want to make a cardigan because you found some beautiful buttons. So yeah, what's your process about cardigan like? Do you buy the buttons first, or do you buy them after you have knitted the cardigan? So it's an interesting thing I'd like to learn. Anyway, I went to the yarn shop, and then they gave me a huge box of buttons, different kind of buttons, and I kind of spent like 1 hour just to find the perfect button, and I also took pictures and sent to my friends and asked them to vote among a few options, and eventually I decided on this mother of pearl button. And actually at the beginning I was thinking using this side of the button, so I thought this color looks similar to my purple color, and then they could match. But also my friends say that this side also looks good, and then I kind of grow to love this side. It's white, but it has like reflection and shimmers to it. It has like purple and green shimmers, and when you put this on the whole garment, it just kind of stands out and highlights the whole garment. Just make the whole cardigan a bit more, I don't know, vibrant. So yeah, finally I decided to use this side, and also I learned something about how to sew buttons on cardigan. Before I thought you just thread a lot of yarn between this button and to the button band, then you should be done. But then I found a technique in my knitting book, and I'd like to share that today. So I found that in my Chinese knitting textbook. It's also a Chinese translation of a Japanese knitting book from the Nihon Vogue publisher. I talked about this Nihon Vogue publisher house last time. They feature a lot of knitting patterns, knitting books, and this is like this is the newest version of knitting foundations in a concise way, or something like that. and it features all the knitting techniques you could think of, like the basic knitting techniques and all the different kind of stitches. And also anyway, I use this as a handbook. I put it by my side whenever I'm knitting, and if I need to remind myself of some specific way of doing some stitches, I'll just grab this book. And I found that there is a small section about how to sew buttons, and it was quite helpful. I'm going to just show this piece here. So this is how you sew a button. I'll translate it a little bit. So first you secure the button to this yarn like this, and then you thread this yarn through the fabric and then back. So now the button and the garment are together, and then you circle around this length. Just you circle the yarn around this cord for a few times, like I think I threaded that 4 times for my garment. And it also depends on how thick your fabric is. So if if the button band is very thin, then you don't need to thread it many times. But like for me, you can see my my button band is like a double knit fabric, quite thick, so it's nice to thread it a couple more times. And I can even show you, this is how much I've threaded. This is how thick I leave it here for my button. So that's the 3rd step. And then so that's what it looks like after you thread it a few times. And then you pull the yarn through the bottom of the loop, and then you hide the yarn to the back of the fabric, and hide the tip as you do for just any regular yarn. So I think that's a neat technique to learn. Yeah, I don't think I'll do a book flip section for this book because it's not there's a lot of words, and I can't just translate all of them, but it's a good handbook for me, and I do hope that it can be translated into English if people are interested. And I don't know if someone of you are from the publishing industry, and I would be happy to translate this book either from Chinese to English or from Japanese to English. Anyway, so I guess there's one more thing that I learned while making this garment, is how to hide the yarn tip at the end of, let's say, a sleeve. So this is quite a long sleeve, and sometimes I wear it reverted, and and the end of the yarn is kind of like here, and I hide it quite invisibly. If you look careful, very very close to it, you will see I hide the yarn here. And I also learned from that book that when you are hiding the yarn, you can like split this this V-shaped knit stitch, and just split the yarn in this knitted fabric and hide the yarn through these stitches. I think it's a nice way to like hide your yarn invisibly, so that you can wear either side. You can like open it like this. Oh, and sorry for my hand. This is my cat scratched me the other day, and it yeah, so don't worry, it's healing. So that's all about what I'm wearing. So now let's go to the finished object section, and I'm going to show my first design piece, my first Fair L design, the cherry blossom cowl. There's a lot of fun stories during this design, and yeah, I'll talk about it. So I got the inspiration from nature the other day when I'm just walking along the beautiful street in Vancouver, and there were a lot of cherry blossoms was blossoming, and if there was a small breeze, and then the cherry blossoms will be blown into the air, and it looks kind of like a cherry blossom rain. And I just thought I want to make some Fair colorwork design out of that. And also I wanted like a cowl, a thin cowl just for the spring, so I decided to make a cherry blossom cowl. So I made some plots, and initially I draw this flower in my grade paper. And I was also looking for inspirations from other work. I was especially inspired by a snowflake cowl design from Mitten Ya's accessory book. I talked about Mitten Ya's book, I think, in episode 1 about my cat Mitten, and she also has some other Fair designs, accessories in that book. And in her design, it's like a big line of big snowflakes, and then there's some small snowflakes, and then again repeating the big snowflakes. And I think I could do the same thing. I can have a big cherry blossom flower motif, and then at the middle there will be some small cherry blossom petals, and then again I repeat the cherry blossom flower. So that's how I came up with like the pixel art plots. And the next thing, I think the most challenging thing for this design was to find the best color. Initially, I went with my grandma's yarn. I talked in the first episode that I received a bunch of different colored yarn from my grandma since she learned that I am knitting, and this bubblegum pink yarn was one of them. And also there was a blue yarn, but I've already knitted that to something which I'm gonna show in the soon. And anyway, at that point I saw this blue yarn and this pink yarn, and I think it would be nice to make the cherry blossom cowl. And I knitted like 10 rounds into it, and just decided the color was appalling. It's I won't say it's ugly, but it's kind of childish. If I perhaps will put an ugly photo here, and I just feel if I'm 6, I will enjoy it, but I'm 29, I'm almost 30, so I don't think this color works for me anymore. So I went to the yarn shop. Actually, the other day I was trying to shop for the buttons, and also I wanted to find a different color, like more pastel pink color for the to do my cherry blossom cowl. And Margot at the yarn shop recommended me this Hostgar yarn. So this is like I would say it's cherry blossom pink, or a little bit more pastel than the cherry blossom pink. Did I keep? Yeah, I still keep the. So it's a 55% lamb's wool and 45% cotton. So it's quite soft, not scratchy at all. I think in the website that they say it's good for baby garments. And this color was just perfect. And this is quite thin, so I'm designing the cherry blossom cowl with DK weight yarn. So I hold 3 strands of this Hostgar coast together to achieve the DK weight. And initially I was knitting these two colors together. Again, I knitted like 10 rounds and decided no, it's not gonna work. These two colors, they are too fade away, there aren't enough contrast, and you can almost not be able to see the motifs from the knitted result. So I have to swap again. Also, I don't want to change the pink, so I found another blue color. So I found this blue color from, again, my grandma's yarn stash, and finally this time it worked. And this, when I first tried this, I didn't knit the whole cowl again. I knitted a small piece of swatch, just using some simpler motifs just to see if these color contrasts work. I guess the lesson I learned from this process is that if I'm designing some Fair L stuff, or if I'm just trying to change color for Fair L for other people's Fair L designs, it's better to knit the swatch instead of just going to do the whole garment together, because it's very hard to get the color correct or get the contrast of colors proper. So yeah, we can't be too confident about our color choices when selecting colors for Fair L pieces. So eventually I was happy with the swatch I got from these two colors and knitted my cowl. And also I had some gauge issues. As I said, I was inspired by the snowflake cowl, and she was using 4mm needle, and she cast it on 120 stitches, and I thought if I'm using the 4mm needle, then perhaps I will cast on 120 stitches for this cowl as well. But then the result is quite different, and I ended up with a huge circumference, and after a few rounds I just know it couldn't work, and I had to reduce 2 pattern repeats, like two flowers of columns, to get a correct size of the cowl. So yeah, another lesson learned is that even if you use the same needle size, your gauge perhaps will be drastically different, because the yarn weight could be different, and also just people knit differently, and perhaps just Mitten Ya, she has a tighter gauge. I think she used a very a sports weight yarn to do the snowflake cowl, and for me I think this is definitely a DK or even a light worsted weight, so thicker yarn, so perhaps end up with a larger gauge. And yeah, so yeah, finally I'm happy with my design, and yeah, it's quite lightweighted, and I think it's good for the spring. And I wanted to publish some patterns on Ravelry, and since I've already plotted that, well, but obviously I cannot put this on Ravelry, so I had to learn how to make a proper chart. I know there are a few softwares. I did some research, and I found an iPad app or iPhone app called the Knitting Chart. I think the Knitting Chart. I'll put a link or description in the description, and it's quite handy. I'm just showing you the default example they have. I think it's a much better designing tool than my Animal Crossing game. I mentioned a few episodes before that I was designing Farewell or draw just Farewell patterns in my Animal Crossing game. There was a designing tool, and you can like put colors in it. But this knitting chart is a much better software. I would highly recommend it. So for this, you can like design. You can put in colors in it, or erase them. You can change different colors, and you can also put in the knitting symbols, like the K2 together symbols or yarn over symbols, so that you can design the lace patterning. And also, you can like copy and paste pattern. So in Animal Crossing, I couldn't do that. So here they have you can select, like you can select this pattern, and then you can mirror that or copy that or cut that or paste that. So you can do whatever thing you want to make the patterns repeat. And if you are not interested in designing, but if you're just knitting some Farewell pieces, it can recognize the chart, and they have like a knitting mode where you can it's showing you like the first line, and then you can go one row up and one row up, and I think at some point it can even give you the explanation. So if you're not a fan of reading charts, if you prefer like reading the written instructions, you can use this one because it can convert a chart into the written instruction. So I think it's quite a nice app, and it's active. I think they have a group in Ravelry. For the free version, you can knit and design very small chart, and they have like a $28 upgrade. I think I will go to that upgrade sometime if I'm getting more serious with the Farewell designing. So I think it's quite a handy tool if you're into color design. So I plotted my cherry blossom cowl pattern using the knitting chart app, and then I wrote the written instructions, and yeah, so I published my pattern on Ravelry. I'll put the link in below. Well, if you're interested. And I'm going to give a 40% off coupon code for my YouTube viewers. The code will be Yinghua YT40. The Yinghua is the name of the design. I call this Yinghua Cowl because Yinghua is cherry blossom in Chinese. I think it would be nice to add like add a personal touch to the design. I was born and raised in China, and yeah, just think it's nice to call it that. And YT is for YouTube, 40 is for 40% off. I'll put all the link in below. So yeah, I'd appreciate it if you can take a look. I think it's the last week for the cherry blossoms, so if you want to have like a nice photo of the cherry blossom cowl with the cherry blossom flowers, then you have to knit really fast. It's really easy, it's really quick and small, and you perhaps can finish it in 1 day or 2 days. I think I finished knitting that in the weekend. Yeah. And then I spent the next couple days writing out the pattern. I had quite a lot of fun. Yeah, so that's for the Yinghua cowl. The second finished garment is this shawl or scarf thing. It's the scarf #1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, the same designer as this cardigan #8. Yeah, she's quite fun. She named all her patterns just as numbers, like cardigan number 1, cardigan number 2, scarf number 1, scarf number 2. Well, I like her designs quite a lot. I think this is quite like a simple lace design. I think this is my first piece of serious, not serious. How to say, it's like my first big piece of lace work. For newer knitters here, I think generally there are a few different techniques in knitting. There is the color work, as I've shown previously, where you combine different colors of yarn together and make motifs. And then there's the cabling. See, you will switch this the stitches and make like a spiral kind of shape, just broadly speaking. And the third type is the lace, where you do yarn over and make holes in the garment, and you make different type of holes and to make different type of lace. This scarf is, I think, the kind of the most basic kind of lace. So basically you do yarn over, which is just wrap the yarn around your needle once, and then the next stitch you knit 2 together. So you don't actually increase any stitches, but when you knit the next round, when you are knitting the yarn over stitch, you will create this hole. Am I showing? Yeah, you will create a hole, and then the thicker part will be the knit 2 together. So and that's basically it. So that's how you create a simple lace pattern. And more difficult lace pattern is just by like adding more stitches and then doing yarn over at more complicated places to create more beautiful patterning. But of course there are more advanced techniques that I haven't learned about. So this is just my first piece of lace. I think it's nice for the spring. And this was also knitted with my grandma's stash yarn. She has a ball of this like baby blue color. Like she has, I think, 95 grams of it. And the original pattern was using I think a cashmere yarn, 100 grams of it. Well, this yarn doesn't feel like cashmere, it feels actually quite synthetic. And anyway, I just thought the yarn weight is similar, and I could just hope I could finish it. And I was very lucky. I used up the yarn, and only like at the last 8 stitches I have no more yarn, and then I had to go to another like similar colored yarn to finish these 8 stitches at the end. I guess you can see there is a slight color difference here just for this 8 stitches at the end. Yeah, if I don't tell you, you won't see. So I'm quite glad that I used up my grandma's blue yarn perfectly and created this lightweight scarf. Oh, I forgot to say, in this pattern, she gave 2 versions. One version is this, she calls a bandana, which is more like a triangle, which is a triangle shape, and like a longer triangle shape. I mean, longer in this direction, and it can wrap around your neck just once. You can wear it like this, or reversely like that, or she says you can also like wrap around your head like this. But my friends aren't a fan of this look, and yeah, they don't want me to wrap that around my head like that. And another version of this pattern is the shawl pattern, where the horizontal length will be longer, but the vertical length will be shorter than this. So I think they use the same amount of yarn, these two versions. They just have different shapes, but they both use the same lace, the similar lacing technique, just different shapes. Well, I preferred this triangle shape because I've never knitted a triangle or shawl shape before. So I wanted to learn how to do that. The way this pattern did it was just to, I think it was knitted from here, from like 4 to 5 stitches, and then at each time you add 2 stitches by doing yarn over at the side, and then add 2 stitches around the middle line. So every 2 or 3 rows you add 4 stitches, and then eventually you will end up with a triangle shape. So that's one way. I guess that's one way I learned how to do a triangular shawl. So finally, let's go to the work in progress section, which they are living in this beautiful project box. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen, there was a video on Instagram someone made like teasing a lot of knitting podcasters are showing project bags, and she was teasing with the plastic bag. Well, look at my beautiful project bag. Well, this is a very beautiful cereal bar project box, recyclable, environmental friendly. Anyway, I don't have fancy project bags, and I'm happy with my cereal bar boxes. I actually have a fancy cereal bar box. I have this one that I wrap with like an IKEA wrapping paper, because I put this one on my desk, and I put all my needles and my swatches in this one, so I wanted it to be a little bit more prettier. So there it is. That's my fancy project bag. This is my less fancy project box, and I'm making a pair of mittens for my friend. I think I mentioned last time, a friend of mine who lives in Edmonton, Alberta, is having her birthday next month, and I also have this wine colored yarn from my grandma that I really like. No, that I'm not a huge fan of wine color, but she is. She likes the warm tones, and she's also living in a very cold place, so I guess perhaps I'll make her a pair of mittens. I don't want to knit from a pattern this time. I wanted to have some fun with designing, and I was drawing a plot. This was actually from Animal Crossing game. And I screenshot the plot and printed that. Yeah. She said she wanted like a fox in the pattern, and then I went up with like a abstract design. I'm not sure if you can see a fox here, but then when I'm knitting this, I found that choosing the correct colors is very, very hard. When I'm knitting this, I found that this wine colored yarn is not as light as I plotted here. It's actually very dark, almost like black colored. So I had to make a few changes through my plotted design. So I think at the end result I'm not sure if you can see a fox. So here, that's the fox, that's the two eyes, and that's the nose. But I think most people will see like a snowflake, like geometrical pattern here, and this side is just very basic, simple Farrell patterns for the inside. I was inspired by some other designs. I showed this Farrell knitting book last time, but I didn't show this work. So I kind of was inspired by these pair of mittens in this book, and I wanted to make a similar design than this. For this one, it has like two diagonal lines and all axis symmetric. So I just took this axis symmetric idea. When I'm just drawing this, I just draw the diagonal line, vertical line, horizontal line, vertical line, and then I add in the fox and add in some other decoration here and there. I'm not sure how good. Well, I don't think the color is good. All these colors are from my grandma's yarn. This color, light yellow color, a darker yellow color, and a gray color. So I just wanted to, I mean, if I can reuse, it's always better than buy something else. Just environmental friendly in the environmental friendly terms. So I guess it's okay. My friend says it's a bit like festive-ish, and she could wear it in Christmas time. So I did this one, and I'm currently working on the second pair. And for the thumb hole setup, maybe people are interested in how I did it. So I learned this technique in Mitten Ya's book, and I think it's kind of like the afterthought heel construction. So when you knit towards the round for where you want to set up the thumb hole, so you use a separate waist yarn to knit. Like for example, here I'm knitting 7 stitches for the thumb hole. So I knit this 7 stitches with the waist yarn, and then I return these 7 stitches from my left needle to the right needle, and then knit whatever color that is called for in the pattern for these 7 stitches, and then I just keep knitting until I finish the main body, and then I pick up the stitches around. So this red is where I left. I should have used a more color contrast, a better contrast color to show. So these red color are the thumb hole. So when I'm making the thumb holes, I will pick up 7, 8. I will pick up 9 stitches. So 7 stitches below the waist yarn, and then 1 stitch on each side. So I will pick up 9 stitches in total below this waist yarn, and then I will pick up another 9 stitches above this waist yarn, and then I'll draw in the round and then just knit in the thumb hole. Here I use the fisherman's rib for this thumb hole to make a thicker fabric. For fisherman's rib, basically you knit from the back loop and then purl, knit from the back loop and purl, so instead of regular knit and purl ribs like I did for the bottom. So this is actually a very similar design than some fingerless mitten, than the cat mitten that I showed in my episode 1. I just appropriated the construction technique to for this design. I don't know if people would be interested in this pattern. I'm not using any commercial yarn, so I don't know if I roast this pattern up, if the yarnage will. I won't have any yarnage information. I've recorded the weight of yarn that I have used. Maybe that would be useful in some way. So let me know if you would be interested in a pattern like this. And if people are interested, I can write this pattern up, but I don't know, I'm not very confident about my Farewell design at this moment. I think I need to practice a bit more. I need to knit other people's design a bit more together, more information, together more inspiration, and learn a bit more before I adventure more into the designing. I don't know, I feel like designing is quite fun. I like knitting is because it just gives me enough space for creativity. I'm not a super creative person in that, like, I don't paint because it's just too much freedom. It's a bit overwhelming for me, but I think knitting just gave me enough creative space. When I'm designing or when I'm knitting other people's patterns, there are rules that I have to follow. Like in Farewell design, you can only have 2 colors in one line, and there's only so much resolution. You basically are making low resoluted pixel art, and you also have to pay attention to the shape of the stitch. So it's like you're designing things but with certain constraints, and I find that's easier for me than just giving me a blank paper and let me draw. So yeah, that's kind of why I like knitting. I'm just rambling. Yeah, I think I've showed everything I want to say this time. Oh, my cat is meowing, so maybe it's time for me to feed them. And well, I hope you are well, and let me know what you're knitting while watching this episode, and if there's anything more you'd like to learn about me, also let me know. I'm on Instagram as SD_Athena. I'm on Ravelry as Athena Liu. Oh, and I think today I will put a Mozart Sonata C major that I played on my antique piano. Maybe the sound quality wasn't very good because it's a very antique, over 100-year-old piano, and the damper was a bit stiff. So when I'm releasing the key, the damper will hit the string again, causing an extra sound. So sorry for that extra noise in some of the notes that I play. I selected this Mozart Sonata because it's kind of cheerful. I think it goes well with the mood of this episode. I hope you are enjoying the spring season around your place, or the autumn season if you are in the southern hemisphere. Let me know where you're from. I'm also interested in meeting knitters from all around the world. And yeah, so that will be all. And I guess I'll see you in 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how well I do with my projects. And thank you for listening to my rambling. And happy knitting. Have a great day. Take care of yourself.